Hi guys, Johnny Good here for Real Home Studio today, taking a look at how I've made and how I continue to make a living from music. And just before we dive straight in, I want to remind you guys to please like and subscribe, and if you've got something to say, please do drop it in the comments box below. So I wanted to make this video today because I've been working on a brand new website, realhomestudio.com, and I'm really excited to be launching that early next year. A lot of work at the moment, just developing the site and getting a lot of the courses and material together for it. And why I wanted to talk about me making a living from music is because the site is not just aimed at learning and gaining knowledge about working from your home studio, but also how to apply that into life and how to make money, and indeed, if you wish to, make a full-time living from it. So it's really those two areas of my personality, the love of making music combining with the lifestyle that being a professional musician affords. So that site is launching early next year, so keep an eye on Real Home Studio for more about that. But let's crack on with my story of how I've made and how I continue to make a living from music. So I started learning guitar at 13 and I went head first into it. I loved learning the guitar. I had a great tutor, and by 16 I landed myself a job working in a 60s style band called TJ and the Switchblades. I remember it very well, particularly my first ever paid gig. I think I got paid, it was either 60 or 80 pounds, which was a lot of money for a 16-year-old back in the 90s, and I just remember just feeling elated, just like, wow, I've made this money. It was also straight into the deep end, working with guys that are older than me, seeming really old at the time, probably in their 30s, and it was a great experience, a really intense learning curve, and I really continued up to my mid-20s just getting involved with bands, some paid, some not paid, a lot of original music, just cut my teeth, playing a lot of gigs, getting into recording studios, and just really learning a lot about the industry. By my mid-20s, however, everything kind of changed somewhat. I'd been working full-time, I was in retail management, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. The pay wasn't even really that good either. There just wasn't going to be the career for me, and all I could think about all the time was making music and writing songs and getting in bands and recording songs and just being creative. So it was clearly locking horns with the job I kind of found myself in, and I managed to land myself a residency at a wine bar, and I was playing 2 nights a week, and I started to add up that I was getting pretty much the same amount of money from playing at this wine bar twice a week as I was from having to manage this shop for like 50 hours a week. So it sort of became a bit of a no-brainer, but the difficult bit was actually closing the door on that full-time job and switching over to do music full-time. That's what I decided to do in my mid-20s. I had to leave the wine bar behind because I decided to move to London, but it's one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. Moving to London was an eye-opener and involved a lot of hustle very early on because needed to make money, right? There suddenly was no job, there was no monthly income to depend on. And that's where busking actually really came in and was a real saviour. And I got involved with what was then the Carling scheme with TfL, being a licensed busker on the London Underground. At the same time, I got a license as well for Covent Garden, busked there too, and really just hustled and got involved, making sure that we're performing music every day, getting involved with pub gigs, and just hustling, getting CDs about at the time, just getting the name about. And of course, busking, if you're busking daily, you're going to meet new musicians, new contacts, new opportunities to play and perform and get your name out there. I ran an open mic night in Brixton, and that was a great way to also network and meet new musicians. And you know, London's just teaches you to hustle, and that's something which I really needed to learn, to get involved and get amongst other musicians. And the great thing with busking at that time was it was a daily, regular, dependable income. So you could have a pretty dependable income from week to week, month to month. And that was really formed the bed and the basis for a few years whilst I was living in London. So I could get on and flourish, hustle, get involved, do some original bands and be a musician and get on and do the things that I really wanted to do. Now, through busking, as the opportunities grew and I started playing in more pubs and clubs, at the same time, I also found myself jobbing a lot with other musicians that I've met along the journey, be that sort of recording backing tracks for people or making EPs, being involved maybe just as an assistant, lending some mics out, making some videos, just offering some experience, just getting in there and hustling and helping people as they're on their journey. And again, that's all about just getting involved and diving straight into the industry you want to work with, and it just opens doors. It's a great way not to also to get work, but also just to get that really valuable experience and confidence and work with some good musicians. When I got to London, I got to say, the step up from working in Norwich to working with musicians in a much bigger city was vast. I felt like, you know, I was doing all right in my mid-20s, kind of I had that regular position and I was doing okay. And then I went to London, and especially when I was doing the open mic, I really remember looking up to these other musicians. I remember that first day when I did the open mic, I was like, whoa, every single act was top draw, really top draw. And where I was in Norwich, they would have been very well known. But in London, there's just talent everywhere. It's very, very humbling to say, great experience, but great people to get involved with and gain your experience working with. You want to work with people ideally that are just a bit better than you, so you can always be climbing up that ladder and gaining that really valuable experience as well with good people. By my mid-30s, I leave busking and pretty much pubs and clubs behind, and I'm working much more as a soloist at key events, so parties, anniversaries, weddings, and I'm dealing much more with agents and agencies, and that's where the bulk of my work is coming through. So this has given me a much more professional approach, and I kind of want that stability. I'm in my mid-30s at this point. I'm becoming a dad. And at the same time, I create a tribute band as well. I see a bit of a gap in the marketplace, and that's gone on to become a leading tribute band. So both my solo career and running this tribute band has become a real backbone to my income still to this day. Now, as I mentioned before, throughout all of this time, I've always been hustling and busy. So I've been involved with teaching. I've been involved with making videos for friends and colleagues for their projects. I've been involved with being a session musician. I've been involved with being in recording sessions, whether I'm working on the recording session myself or if I'm working on the fly. I'm doing interviews for friends, creating content and media, always being busy and doing stuff. And that really helped when I wanted to develop other areas of my work, because gigging's great, but generally tends to be focused on the weekends. So you've got this whole week to fill your time up. So that's really when I started looking at two other areas to move into. One was in teaching, so I started becoming a professional guitar teacher through the week, and the other was being a freelance mix engineer, so getting clients online and building a business that way. And I did these two things throughout the week for quite a number of years, up until fairly recently, where I was just feeling like it was just taking up way too much of my time, and I wasn't getting enough free time to be able to grow and develop some other areas and interests in my business. So as much as I was enjoying teaching guitar and piano, and as much as I was enjoying freelance mix engineering, and I learned absolutely loads in those years, I felt like it was time to move away and wind that area of my business down a bit and move more into areas where I could earn a passive income and create some more time. So the obvious next move was to translate a lot of the teaching skills which I've learned onto online courses, and my mix knowledge and everything which I'd gained over all these years of working translated really well into developing Real Home Studio, which you're watching right now on YouTube. So this, alongside making royalty-free stock music, which I've been doing for just over a year now, that's been a really great fit for me, because that's kind of something I've always done, but just never really had a home for it. So I really enjoy making stock music. It's a great way to earn a bit of extra income on the side, or indeed, if you want to, make a full-time living from it. So the thing that I would say to take away from this is that I've always been flexible. I've always moved and shaped. It's not always stayed the one same thing in order to stay full-time, or in order to have and make a living from music. In summary, a lot of adapting, a lot of overcoming, but what a journey it's been so far. And I can't wait to find out what the future holds. It's a real blessing for me to be a musician for a living. As I mentioned at the start of this video, realhomestudio.com launches early next year, probably early spring. I'm really excited to get this website out there. It's going to be packed full of knowledge and sharing my experiences, so you guys can fast track your music career to success. Thanks as always for checking this video out, and if you've got any questions, please do leave them in the comments box below. Most importantly, make sure you have yourself a great day.